So I've got lots of energy right now, and I don't apologize for it, even though it's almost 10 p.m. We are going to have the most fantastic episode about Murder on the Orient Express we possibly could. And we don't have to talk about the fact that I'm the reason that we have to re record this. So apparently, I don't know if you guys could hear this when we recorded the episode, but there's a lot of hissing coming from my mic. And that was the background noise.
Oh, so
Oh, your
not
ongoing
my
microphone
fan.
issue.
Yeah. So, no, not your fan at all, Sam. But Ryan thinks he's fixed it, and it's definitely not present in episode 8. So, as long as our audio sounds okay, we're all good to go, I think. And even if our audio is bad, we're sticking with this one. Sorry,
Okay.
viewers. Sorry, listeners. Like, hopefully it's good. I'll tell you when I edit. So, since I have a short attention span anyway, I don't really remember the last episode. Not last episode. The last time we tried to record this one. So I guess I'll just start off by saying hello, everyone. Welcome to the Penny Dreadfuls, a book review podcast. I'm one of your hosts, the oldest and the best, Izzy.
I'm Jackie.
And I'm Sam. We're saving the worst for last.
So yeah, as I said, this is our second attempt at bringing our opinions on Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. Sorry if you hear pages turning. I'm just going to that page in my notebook. Where's your notebook, Sam?
What, do you ask where my notebook was?
Mm-hmm.
It is not currently in the room with me. If you want to play elevator music, I'll go get it.
I'll just sing the elevator music. Da,
Okay.
Da 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 da. Take it away, Jackie.
Oh, I'm not good at, oh my God. I can't even think of the word. What is it? On the fly stuff. That
Improv.
comedians practice. Improv. See? That's how bad I am. Terrible.
Okay, so instead of improv, I guess I could find a dad joke to tell you.
Okay.
Okay, one second. Let me think of a good one.
Actually, I have a good one.
Okay.
Okay. It's a knock knock joke. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you have to start it.
That's bad. I hate that. Okay. Did you hear about the 2 rowboats that got into an argument? It was an ordeal.
Ooh.
Why did the whale blush? It saw the ocean's bottom.
It was whaley embarrassed.
Boo. Don't steal my joke.
I fixed it.
I fixed it. Shut up.
Look, I have it.
Nice. Now, Jackie, hold up yours.
Okay.
I'm holding up mine and you can't see it.
We're like Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. We're like,
But
what do they say? It's something unite.
I don't know. I don't watch SpongeBob. I don't know.
Heroes unite.
Is it Heroes Unite?
I'm not Googling. Yeah, I'm not Googling it real quick.
But I bring you a peace offering of a potential can opening ASMR.
Oh.
Let's see if this actually picks up and if it's as beautiful as I hope it is.
Go ahead.
Ready?
Ooh. Jackie, it's Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy unite.
We should have got that.
We should have. There's also another quote that it brought up. Are you ready? And I think it's a little bit more fitting here, especially for you and I. Sammy's maybe not involved, but I'm tired of playing second banana to a man who wears a bra.
Yes. Excellent. But you don't have a banana.
Tired of playing second banana.
I know. You don't have a banana.
You don't know.
I'm pretty sure Izzy's banana is bigger than Ryan's.
Oh, got him. We'll have to tell him that joke when he's on for next episode.
Or we never tell him and we wait to see how long his attitude towards Sammy changes.
Smart. This will be a test. This will be a test if he listens or not.
Now, I'm not one for trapping spouses in tests, but I'm all for this one.
Because it's not your spouse.
I think at some point we should all talk crap about the other one's partners.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not ruining my marriage.
Here's the thing. Mine already told me he's not going to listen probably, so
divorce him.
He's ruining this on his own.
Divorce him.
Get him out of here.
Leave him at the altar.
The amount of times I'm like, I'm gonna divorce you. And he's like, we're not even married yet. And I'm like, okay, then act better. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to,
If you don't want a divorce, fix it.
yeah, I'm warning you with plenty of time. This is on you now.
Okay. Well, anyway, everybody's off their meds today, I guess. So we're talking about Murder on
Oh
the
no.
Orient
Oh
Express.
no, I am on my meds.
Yeah, that's why you're a person. I forgot. That's why she's not sleeping. Well, it's nighttime, so technically this is when you're supposed to get sleepy. Did you take the meds that are going to keep you up all night?
No, we're good.
Okay, good. This is for the 5th time now, Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. It is solidly in the mystery genre. It's 274 pages, and it was first published in January of 1934. And I am the one that recommended this, so I will be doing a lot of talking today. If you guys want to skip the episode, please don't, but I don't blame you. So, do you guys have any questions before we dive into the plot?
Yeah, so this is gonna. Oh, okay, you go first.
No. Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, but I guess I am more important. So.
Oh, and just like that, we're no longer bridesmaids. Way to go.
You're all kicked out. You and your whole family.
Fuck you. Fuck your cow.
Uh,
I know it's dishonor, but I didn't want to get sued for copyright infringement,
Just partial.
Oh, uh-oh.
It's fine. We don't have any money. Take what we don't have.
I feel less than honest because this is the same question I had last time, but
okay.
It's a re-record. So I already know the answer, and now I have to pretend not to know the answer while I ask you the question.
All right. I'll try to have a different answer.
Oh, okay. Is this your first Agatha Christie novel?
Who's Agatha Christie?
That is a different answer. You fool.
Got him.
Thankfully, I was mute. You missed that snort while I almost shot beer out my nose.
This is not my first Agatha Christie novel. And I have a really good fun fact that makes me love Agatha Christie more that I'll share with you before the plot after we hear everybody's answer. But my first Agatha Christie book was And Then There Were None. My first Hercule Poirot novel from her was The ABC Murders, which is a good book if anybody cares to read it. What about you, Sam?
This was not the first one. I forgot about the ABC Murders, though. That was a good book, too.
Mm-hmm.
No, but my first one was also And Then There Were None. This was my first Hercule Poirot book, though.
Hercule Poirot.
Hercules Peridot.
Yeah, that's his name. That sounds right.
That's how I read it, by the way. Hercules Peridot.
There's not even a D or an S. Like,
There's
okay.
not. There's not. My brain understood Perot, but it just auto-corrected to Peridot, and
Hey, honestly fair.
And that's just how it stuck. I don't know. Like I read the whole almost 300 pages reading Peridot, so that's. I know that's not his name, but it took so much of me to not say that last time we recorded.
All right, Jackie, was this your first one?
Actually, it was, but it was when I was about 11 or 12. And so, fun fact, I went into this like I knew I was going to read it again, but I was like, I don't want to read this book again. But I had completely misremembered the ending, like completely.
Oh.
So when I read it again, I got to the ending and I was like extra surprised.
You're like, wait a goddamn minute.
I had to go back and like,
is this a reprint?
I had to go back like 5 pages and was like, wait a second.
Who did what? No, this is a good one. So my fun fact about Agatha Christie is that did you know that she would be a good candidate for our other podcast, Jackie? Unsolved Cases and Suspicious Faces, because there's an unsolved mystery surrounding a disappearance she had.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah, so her husband and her were married. She's got wild famous success as an author at this point. Her husband's a pilot and he starts cheating on her. So, of course, she's distraught. She has a small baby at home. She's like, I can't do this. What kind of man cheats on his wife and they got a baby? So she's like, I'm going to go. She kind of has a mental break. She's like, I'm going to go. I'm going to get out of here. And of course, I'm just telling you this from my brain. So all the details may be fuzzy. I'm sorry if this isn't exactly accurate, but this is how I remember it. So she just takes off. They find her car. She's nowhere to be found. And of course, she's one of the most famous authors at this time in London. So people are like, hey, where the fuck's she at? Like, we found her car. So 11 days later, they find her. She's staying at a hotel that's very fancy. It's got a spa. She's getting the works done. And she checked in under the name of her husband's mistress. Like, that's the name she gave. So she's claiming that she has amnesia. For the whole time, she didn't know that she was disappeared. Like, she had seen the papers, but she didn't think that was her. Like, she had no idea what's going on. So she went missing, was a missing person, checked into a spa under her husband's sister's name, and had a ball. So that is, it's debated and kind of unsolved because nobody knows if she actually had amnesia.
No, she didn't. She did that to make the entire country aware that her husband was cheating on her with whatever her name is.
And that's absolutely what I would do in that situation. Thank you. I'd be like, oh, you're going to cheat on me? The world's most famous author at this point? You're going to cheat on me? All right. I'm checking into this fancy hotel and going missing under your mistress's name, bitch. Absolutely. I'm that petty. That's what I'm here for. Anyway, that's my favorite fact about Agatha Christie. Thank you.
I have never heard that, actually. I think it's really funny, but I don't know if this is just like because I'm ignorant or really bad at history. For some reason, like I never equate like Agatha Christie being in the same timeline as Cars. I don't know why. Like I feel like she died before cars were invented, and I know that's really stupid. But
So the first car was invented in 1885. The first car available to the public was in 1886. This book came out in 1934. So, yeah, that's wild because I was just thinking about it too. And I was like, I don't know when you could buy a car,
okay,
but apparently earlier. You're not the only one alone in that. Don't worry.
okay, because I was like, I was
That's
like,
like,
she doesn't.
that's the
Okay,
equivalent of finding out that Oxford is older than the Aztec Empire.
yeah,
It just blows my mind. I feel you. I'm there.
yeah, okay. So like, I was listening to you tell me this really cool fun fact, but I was just stuck on the fact that she was driving a car.
Yeah, because I couldn't tell if you were bored or if you were stuck on something because your face was just kind of frozen.
Oh, I was just like, I was getting ready to Google when cars were invented because I was like, that doesn't even sound right. That was actually a very genuinely interesting fun fact.
There's
I
a BuzzFeed Unsolved on it. If you guys want to look at that.
That's fantastic.
All right, so we answered Jackie's question. I told you my fun fact. Sammy, you also had a question to ask.
You blew my mind so much, I forgot what my question was.
That was the goal.
So what did you say this genre was, Izzy?
Mystery.
So I agree with you. I also have it as detective fiction. Would you feel like that's accurate also?
Well, I would personally, I feel like detective fiction fits under mystery. Like, I feel like mystery is a pretty big umbrella. Like, yeah, you could parse it out, but I think that mystery kind of encompasses it all.
It could be a subgenre.
That would work.
Okay. Yeah, I had mystery originally, and then I was like, it feels like just like a detective novel. So I was just wondering if you felt like that would also.
Yeah, I think it would for sure also apply.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah. Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. Like 20 minutes into recording, here we go. We open to Hercule Poirot standing on a train platform waiting to board the tourist express heading to Istanbul. He's going to have a much needed vacation as he has just finished up a really rough case because a French officer is escorting him to the train station and apparently something strange happened and one officer committed suicide. The whole French army was indebted to Mr. Perot now. We don't get the details of that. I'm pretty sure it's in the previous Hercule Poirot book because there's like 40 of them. But that's not the story we're focusing on. On the Tourist Express heading to Istanbul, there are only 2 other passengers. We have Mary Debenham and Colonel Arbuthnot. The 2 act as if they're complete strangers while Perot is around, but Mr. Perot is a very good detective and he is excellent at observing people and not letting them know they're being observed. So when he is observing them while they're unaware, they can be seen to act like they are very close and intimate, almost like lovers, which Hercule Poirot at this point is like, that's weird. Wonder why there's such a difference, but they're English. There's a lot of stereotyping in this book. Maybe they're just incredibly private. Oh, well. So something else that Mr. Perot remarks on is that they were delayed about 2 hours and Mary throws an absolute fit, is very worried about making it to Istanbul on time because she's got a connection. So Hercule Poirot's like, look, trains make up time. This will be fine. Don't worry about it. And they only get to Istanbul like 5 minutes late. So they all part ways. He goes to his hotel where he is delighted to find that his close friend Monsieur Book, who is the head of the company that runs the Orient Express, is also there. Poirot is unable to enjoy his planned vacation, however, as an urgent telegram summoning him back to London is waiting for him at the hotel, but he has enough time to eat at the restaurant with Monsieur Book. And Poirot and Book are having a lovely evening, and then they spot this very wealthy American man named Ratchet and Mr. McQueen, his secretary, eating together, and Poirot and Monsieur Book agree that that is probably one of the most evil-looking men that they have ever seen. Bum, bum, bum. Foreshadowing. So Poirot is able to board the Orient Express that night, but almost was not able to, despite being there with the head of that company, because it is unusually full for that time of year, because it's wintertime. It's going across Europe. There's a lot of parts. There's a lot of areas in Europe that are very snowy. So it's odd, is all I'm saying. Normally, Hercule Poirot, who is very conceited about this, is pretty famous. So he's able to stay in first class and have private booths and cabins and things like that, especially since, again, he's with the head of the company. He's unable to do so because they're full, so he has to stay in a second class berth, which is adjacent to the first class berth and in kind of the same area. But he does have to share a room with Mr. McQueen, the secretary to Mr. Ratchet, who is also on the train, which is whatever. He's not thrilled, but it's just one night. So the next day, Poirot gets up. They're able to add another cabin on. So Poirot's able to take Monsieur Book's berth in first class, and everything seems peachy. So while he's dining, everybody kind of clears out except for Ratchet, and Ratchet comes to sit next to Poirot. Mr. Ratchet says that he needs Poirot to work for him because he's in fear for his life. And Poirot's like, that's not the type of case that I normally take on. I'm sorry, I can't be helpful to you. And Ratchet says he's been receiving threatening letters and he's sure someone will try to kill him in the coming days on the train. But Poirot refuses in what is the best way to turn someone down, because he does not like Ratchet's face, which just, yes, tell him. Anyway, so that night, after he's moved to the cabin, he is in a cabin that's directly next to Ratchet's, and on the other side of Ratchet is Mrs. Hubbard's cabin. So that night, Poirot is woken up to a cry coming from Ratchet's compartment, but when the conductor goes to check to see if Ratchet is all right, a voice responds, "Ce n'est rien, je me suis trompé," meaning, "It was nothing, I am mistaken." Thank you, I don't speak French, I had to Google that. Poirot is unable to get back to sleep because he recognizes that the train is too quiet and it weirds him out. A little bit later, Mrs. Hubbard rings her bell and insists that there was a man in her room, despite there being nowhere a man could hide. After this, Poirot rings his bell and asks for water, and he sees a woman in a scarlet kimono running down the hall. Perot is informed by the conductor that the train is stuck in a snowbank, which explains the silence. And then a little bit later, Perot also hears a thump coming from Ratchet's compartment. So the next morning, the train is still stuck, and Monsieur Book informs Perot that Mr. Ratchet has been murdered and that the murderer is still aboard the train because they've been stuck in a snowbank. There'd be nowhere for the murderer to go. Perot agrees to investigate the case, and he then examines the body with the assistance of a doctor who was on board the train in a different car that was locked overnight, meaning there's no possible way this doctor could have helped in the murder. So a couple of things come out during the examination of Ratchet's body. It's discovered that he has 12 stab wounds and that they appear to be from at least 2 different people, as some are from a left-handed person and some are from a right-handed person. Some wounds are so shallow that they barely break the skin, and some are so deep that they break rib bones. So this gives them the conclusion that it had to be at least 2 other people. The window was also left open in the compartment, presumably to make the investigators believe that the murderer escaped from the window. However, there are no footprints in the snow outside. A handkerchief with the initial H is found, as well as a pipe cleaner, a round match, and a charred piece of paper with the name Armstrong on it. And using heat, Perot is able to uncover the rest of the note that says, "Remember little Daisy Armstrong." So there's a lot that's going on. So using this information, Perot is able to determine that Ratchet is really a man named Cassetti, who is responsible for kidnapping a 3-year-old girl named Daisy Armstrong from a famous and wealthy family. After paying the ransom, it was discovered that Cassetti had murdered Daisy anyway, leading to both her mother and father dying from broken hearts. A maid also killed herself when she was under suspicion of being associated with the crime. So if anybody is a true crime buff, you know that this is almost directly inspired by the Lindbergh baby case, which also just broke my heart even more because that's a tragedy in and of itself, but it basically almost exactly follows that, except for the parents stayed alive. Perot starts interviewing the passengers, and all of them have an alibi that seems to check out. All passengers have alibis that are verified by other passengers. They seem to have no connection to, thus no reason to lie or give false testimony. Many passengers also state that they saw a small man they did not recognize in a conductor's uniform, which lines up with the conductor's button they found in Mrs. Hubbard's room. And a lot of people also say they saw the woman in the red kimono, but none of the passengers own a red nightgown or a kimono. Because of this, Perot obviously has to search the passenger's luggage, and he then discovers that the luggage tags for Countess Andreni's bags are wet, almost in an attempt to conceal her name. And he also realizes that her passport is also smudged over her first name, making it clear that they were trying to hide her first initial. He also finds a conductor's uniform in the luggage belonging to Hildegard Schmidt, who insists that she has no idea how it got there, nor does she match the description of the man who was seen wearing the uniform. So it's very strange that it ended up in her bag. Perot also finds the red kimono placed in his own luggage as kind of an extra FU to him from the murderers. After reviewing all the information that he has gathered, Perot develops a list of questions for a few of the passengers. He correctly determines that Countess Andreni is the aunt of Daisy Armstrong, Helena Goldberg. Mary Debenham was Daisy's governess, and Antonio Foscanelli, the Italian, was the Armstrong chauffeur. Masterman was the valet, and Greta Olsson was Daisy's nurse. Princess Dragomirov also tells Perot that the handkerchief was hers. There's a lot of character names that are coming at you. I can't tell you the backstory behind all of those characters. Otherwise, we'd be here as long as it would take you to read the book. So this is just kind of a brief overview. Please read it to get the full details. After the second round of interviews, Perot gathers everyone and states that there are 2 possibilities for this murder. And he will leave the decision of which one it was to Monsieur Book and the doctor because they are 2 impartial parties. So the first possibility was that the murder took place way earlier than they thought it did, and that Ratchet hadn't turned his clock back, so the time they had initially was wrong. And that meant that the murderer entered and then got away on foot before the train became stuck in the snowbank. This was initially rejected by both Monsieur Book and the doctor as not being possible because of the multiple stab wounds, all the information in the case. And he said, okay, hold your horses before you discount that because here's the second possibility. All passengers took a turn stabbing Cassetti so that no one knew who was responsible for the blow that murdered him. Mrs. Hubbard reveals herself to be a famous actress, Linda Arden, and also the grandmother of Daisy Armstrong, and admits that this is the correct solution. She details how Cassetti was able to use his newfound wealth, flee the country, and escape justice for Daisy's murder. And she implores that she be the only one held responsible. After hearing everything, Monsieur Book and the doctor both agree that possibility one must have been what had actually happened. So everyone essentially got away with murder because, I mean, justice had been served, I think. And that is Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie.
This it reminds me of the case that happened in America in like the 50s and 60s time frame, where there was just like this mean old man, kind of like the guy from Under the Dome that like tried to run the town and everything. But a nasty
Big
piece
Jim.
of yeah, a nasty piece of work. And he was leaving his truck one day in the middle of town, and there were 40 eyewitnesses.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the guy died, and not a single person saw what happened, apparently. So,
yeah, because like the whole town was in the bar. Yeah.
Nobody knew what happened.
Yeah, nobody saw anything. I would love to know what your guys' thoughts on the book were as a whole.
Would you like to go first, Jackie, or would you like me to?
I went first with my question, so you take it away this time.
I liked it. I really like Agatha Christie, so I feel like for me, it's probably going to be hard for me to find a book of hers that I don't like. Keeping in mind that, it was written, I don't know, like 90 years ago. Books are written different than they are now. I still liked it even like in today. I scored it a 92 out of 100. So obviously I liked it, but my thought mostly is I think that Hercules Peridot is so outrageously smart that his like jumping to conclusions almost makes sense. Because the way that he's written, he's so well written and so believable that you're like, yeah, this guy really is that smart. I could see how he got there. Like, that makes perfect sense. If he hadn't been written in such a way, I'd be like, you're just making crap up. You're just guessing. Like, how would you even go from, point A to point Z without all the letters in the middle? I think his character, even though there wasn't very much going on, I think his character, like, was my favorite of all of them. I mean, you really get to talk to very many other people, I guess, in the book, but the way that he's written, I think, is really, really fascinating. The only reason I marked it down a little is the ending. I think it just ended so abruptly that there wasn't like a natural, ending to me. They were just like, oh, okay, everybody did it, nobody did it, the end. And then that's it. You don't get to see like, oh, they get off the train and like that kind of stuff. There's no wrapping up point for me. So I think that's the only reason really I marked it down. But I before I go on, I want to know what you guys think. Like, do you think that was also too abrupt of an ending?
For what I normally go for, yes, but in the context of this book, I don't think it was that abrupt of an ending at all. But that's mainly because I'm used to reading Agatha Christie and Hercule Poirot novels, and that is kind of how it goes for those, I think.
Maybe it's like a part of the subgenre, since it's following the detective once the case is closed. End of story. Like that's all they care about. I don't know how Sherlock Holmes stories end or more modern ones, but
Okay, yeah, I could see that. I don't know, maybe if I just haven't read enough of the Hercule Poirot books to like have that comfortable feeling with it. Um, it obviously wasn't that big of a deal because I still scored it a 92. I just, for my personal preference, I think most of the books that I read end up having like an epilogue, so there is that extra little like information. So it just down to personal preference, I think. But that is most of my thoughts.
I really love that she wrote the detective's character as a small, funny-looking, non-imposing man. But I really think that like just the way he's written it probably helps with his the way he's able to go and solve crimes and stuff. I feel like people feel more comfortable like talking to him and stuff because he's like not afraid of him. He's not physically aggressive, or you don't have to like worry this person's gonna hurt you or something. I don't know. Non-threatening is the term I was looking for there. I bet that probably helped him a lot. So the way I thought this book would end, the way I remembered it ending was I did remember the part that everybody stabbed him, but I thought the princess was like, I'm the oldest. I don't have a lot of life left to live. Just arrest me and let everybody else go free. And then they arrest her and she goes to prison. So a little bit differently. Honestly, kind of a funner ending my way, but don't tell Agatha Christie that. I found this book to be really hard to get through. And I know that today in our society, just we are constantly having to be entertained and stuff. So I think even when we read, we've gotten to the point where every chapter has to have like a major plot point or something happening to keep us hooked in the books that we read. And I've gotten used to it. So reading this book that's like slow, like methodically placed, like each page has a new piece of evidence. And then they all go over the same story like 10 times from like varying angles and sharing their like point of view on the case and how it happened to them. I found it to be really dry and hard to get through. For that reason, I don't think I would recommend this as the first Agatha Christie novel. Maybe dip your toes in something different, and then like get into the more hardcore detective novels in the subgenre like this one, where it's just like one story from 10 different angles, because the setting is a train. So there's not really anywhere, the scenery is not changing. It's just him talking to people, the same people, the entire book. I don't think I could read this book again. Not again. It was the first time I found it pretty good. The second time, I think that's maybe part of the reason why I found it a little boring, was I remembered some of the details, so I wasn't really interested in like doing a deep dive. I'm sure when this book came out, I'm sure there were like little old ladies or something with their little pencils out, like writing each piece of evidence down to see if they could solve the crime before like Hercule Poirot did or something. So I was not doing that. And that is the end of my thoughts. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Is that what this is?
Surprise.
Oh, so I guess I'll dive into what I think, even though I think you guys covered it. Did you say what you rated this?
Oh, I did not. 1 second. The one time I forget to write it down in my journal. I gave this one a straight 80.
Straight 80. Okay. I gave this one a 90 out of 100 because I do think that it is one of the classic mystery novels.
Were you the little old lady with the pencil trying to figure it out?
No, because I read this when I was 11 or 12, same as you. I think I actually read this one because there was a Murder on the Orient Express video game. I think Mom played.
You remember? Yeah.
Yeah, Mom played it, and I was like, murder on the train? And I was like, okay, well, now I have to read the book. And I think Mom wouldn't let us watch, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong. I don't think Mom let us watch or play the game because it would spoil how the book ended. But I could be making that up. but yeah, no, I just like I was reading this book and had the recovered memory of the video game, and I was like, can I still buy it? I don't think so. Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot mysteries are very famous and stand the test of time for a reason. While some parts of this book have aged poorly and are problematic, the characters and plot stand the test of time, in my opinion. I think the plot twist was well done, and on my first read, I did not see it coming. But at the same time, even though I remember it hitting me like a bag of bricks, looking at the evidence, there was no other possibility. So I thought upon the first read that this was very well done. Unfortunately, it's so well done that once you know the ending, you know the ending, and you can't really forget and reread it later. So if you know the plot twist, I wouldn't recommend reading it. I just thought it was very interesting that there was a mystery and whodunit book that the answer to whodunit is everybody. Everybody did it. I thought that was really cool. I did like the way that they allowed the people on the train to get away with the murder, because this man that was murdered had done horrible things to someone that they loved and gotten away with it. So they kind of just decided, well, justice was served. And I think that's a very normal human reaction. So it kind of shows the human side of Hercule Poirot instead of the calculating detective side that we often see. So I thought that was nice. There is a quote I would like to point that I would like to read from from page 160 that I kind of think ties up the entire book in a bow. And the quote is, "The impossible cannot have happened, therefore the impossible must be possible in spite of appearances." And I thought that was a really interesting quote that kind of lets the reader into the brain of Hercule Poirot and kind of lets them into his logic processing to be able to figure out who did it. But I do have a couple issues with the way that he was able to deduce all of this. Like, if it's a lot of very convenient clue leaving, because when you already know the answer, you're able to leave clues and have the detective figure it out because you know what the answer is. If Hercule Poirot had not heard of this American murder, he would not have figured out that everybody was connected. If he didn't know who Daisy Armstrong was, none of this would have happened. So it's very convenient that he was like, holy shit, it's about Daisy Armstrong. That must mean this guy is not actually Ratchet. This is Cassetti. And like, he could have been completely and utterly wrong, but because this is a work of fiction, he of course was right. So that's kind of an issue I have with a lot of detective novels, not just Hercule Poirot. I don't like when the detective has like superhuman logic or processing capabilities and it has access to information out of the blue that we're just supposed to accept as fact. It's not my thing. And also, like I said, there's lots of stereotyping based on race and gender in this book that I wasn't a fan of. But yeah, I still gave it a 90 out of 100. I think this is one of the quintessential mystery reads. And that if you haven't read Agatha Christie, first off, what's wrong with you? Second off, while I wouldn't recommend starting with this one, I would recommend starting with something like the ABC Murders and then jumping to this one and Death on the Nile and other ones. But yeah, that's my opinion. I think we're kind of all in agreement.
I do have something to add before we end.
Oh.
Fun fact, another fun fact. Towards the end of Agatha Christie's writing career, she absolutely despised the character Hercule Poirot. She found him to be like arrogant and insufferable. Because I know you're getting a degree in English and you're in writing, Sam, or you English also? I can never remember.
Writing.
I'm sorry.
Technically, I'm also in writing.
Okay.
It's the boring side of writing.
So I guess something that happens with character development is sometimes they can take a life of their own, and that happened with her, with this character especially.
Oh yes.
Do you think you were picking up like a little bit of the hints of that? Like, as
Um,
you're, maybe it's just because I knew that before I read this book, but I definitely was like picking up hints of those character flaws like jumping out at me. Like, I could see.
so she wrote, in my opinion, she wrote him that way to give him like hubris and give him flaws because nobody wants like a protagonist that's perfect.
Nobody
But
wants a protagonist that's an insufferable know-it-all either.
Hermione would beg to differ. Thank you. But I do think that in this book, since it's pretty early on, we don't see a lot of how conceited he is. And no spoilers, but when we get to Death of the Nile, that definitely comes out to play, I think, a little bit more. But yes, in several Hercule Poirot books, I think it happens in the ABC Murders too, where he like introduces himself and expects people to know who he is. And when they don't, he gets offended. Like that kind of thing. So yeah, I can definitely see that. But I also think that it was necessary to do something like that in order to make him an interesting character. What are your thoughts, Sam?
I think knowing that she ended up hating him too makes me feel a little bit better about disliking the character. Um, because that happens. I've started writing so many books where I'm like, I love this character, like this little quirk is so cool, and then you get like partway through and you're like, this is the dumbest character. I hate this book. And like, but you can't go back and fix it without rewriting the whole book, and you're like, okay, I hate this character. It happens. Um, so knowing that happens, just that's funny. But um yeah, I did notice he was like incredibly arrogant, and I wasn't gonna say that because I kind of thought it was just me. Um, but I don't know. He like hearing the way that you talked about him, Izzy, gave me a lot of like back then Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory,
Mm-hmm.
like uber genius, but like a little bit lacking in the social skills of like, but I'm a genius, you should know who I am. Um, I had another thought too that I'm wondering what you guys think about if we're done talking about his character flaw. Did you have something else, Jackie, before I say my thought? Oh, for those of you not watching, she shook her head. Um,
Yes, I tend to use nonverbal communication.
um, I want to know if you thought this book would have been more or less effective if it hadn't taken place primarily in one car.
I think it would have been less effective because I don't think that there was any way to narrow down who could have done it. So I think that unfortunately for this case, it had to be on a train and or something like that in order to make sense of the murder.
What do you think,
Yeah.
Jackie?
I didn't like the setting because I found it boring. Um, because I didn't like the setting, but I think that is largely due to the fact that it was on a train, so there wasn't any variety in the scenery or anything. I would say that if we expand the scenery, then you expand the potential evidence, expand the suspect pool, and pretty much the only reason he was able to think his way through the crime in this case was because it was impossible for someone to have left in the snow. So that's how he was able to solve it. So if it was the whole train and someone could have blended in, I don't know. I mean, if it was written differently, maybe, but I don't think that would really fit this story as well.
So you think even just like adding one more car or like the platform where you get off or something, do you think even just adding one extra setting would have changed it?
I don't know because I haven't really read any more Hercule Poirot books. I don't know if the interviewing is as prevalent in other books
Yes.
of his.
That's how he figures out his cases.
Is basically
Interviewing.
by
He does
talking to people.
interviewing, searching luggage. He does collect evidence, but it's mostly interviewing.
Okay, in that case, then no, because it was the incessant interviewing, going over the case again and again and again and again, which made me not really enjoy it.
I thought about this last time we were recorded after we hung up, but in this scenario, I think it works to have just like, the one main car and then you kind of go into the little rooms a little bit. I think what Izzy said is how I feel a little bit too, is like having it be in those just that one or two central places really works. And it wouldn't work if you added more rooms. Like the first Saw movie primarily takes place in one room, and there's just so much character and like still action that takes place all in one room. And I think this is that kind of scenario where, I mean, not a whole lot happened in this, but like somebody died and there was like a whole murder investigation, and like, potentially other people could have died. They didn't know that, but like he thinks that like maybe there's still a murderer on the train. So you do get all this like suspense and mystery and stuff, and you're really only in like a few feet essentially. And I think that adds to the level of success that Agatha Christie has as a writer, because she managed to make an entire story work in one room. And I think that's really hard for writers to do successfully and have it work like she did. It feels very weird to equate Agatha Christie with The Big Bang Theory and Saw, but there you go. I did it.
No, I agree. Those are good correlations. So I guess overall, we would recommend this book if it wasn't your first time reading it, or if it was your first time reading it, and if you had previously read Agatha Christie and you were prepared for the style. I think overall we all thought that it was a good solid book, very classic, but that we probably wouldn't read it again.
Yep.
I just that with detective novels, it's just not as fun the second time
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
know the ending. But
Unless
if
you
I could-
forget, like some of us.
right, that could be. But if I could read it again, not knowing the ending somehow, maybe,
Yeah. If I could read it again and not know the ending, I would definitely do it. I'll go out and say that. But well, okay, I think that wraps up our thoughts on Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. You can let us know if you agree with us, if you disagree, or if you have any book recommendations for us. We'd love to hear those. You can send us an email at pennydreadfulspodcast@gmail.com. We have a page on Goodreads called Penny Dreadfuls Podcast, and we also are on Facebook and Instagram, and Jackie will tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, follow us at Penny Dreadfuls a book review podcast.
And feel free to like or comment or tell us your thoughts, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Please hit us with a subscribe and like this video and leave a comment. I'm excited to hear what other people thought and if we're in the majority or not here. Our next episode 7, will be Shark Heart, a love story by Emily Havoc. This one is fiction, 432 pages, and was published in 2023, and I recommended it, so you know it's going to be a good one. The week after that, we'll be discussing House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. This one's a fantasy and young adult book that's about 292 pages, and Jackie recommended that one. So yeah, we'll see you then. Jackie, go ahead and end that recording.